Have you ever stopped to think about how your phone actually works? I mean, really, think about it. How do billions of devices all over the planet talk to each other at the exact same time without it just becoming a huge, garbled mess of noise? Well, it's kind of like a modern miracle, and the answer is this incredible story of innovation, one generation at a time.
I'm sure you've been here. You're at a huge concert, maybe a football game, and you pull out your phone to post a photo, and nothing. Not a single bar. You're completely cut off, even though you're surrounded by thousands of people. It's so frustrating.
And that experience, right there, really makes you wonder. If just a few thousand phones in one stadium can bring a network to its knees, how in the world does it work for the other, 8 billion devices scattered across the globe all day, every day? The answer is a really brilliant set of engineering tricks.
At the heart of it all is a concept called multiple access. The name of the game is sharing. You see, the radio spectrum, that invisible highway our phone signals travel on, is limited. There's only so much of it to go around. So multiple access techniques are basically the traffic rules that prevent a total global gridlock. We're going to see how engineers solved this sharing problem over and over again.
Okay, so let's start our story way back in the 1980s with the very first generation of mobile tech. This was, you could say, the brute force era.
So 1G was, for its time, a total revolution. But looking back, it was so basic. We're talking about those giant brick phones that could literally only make voice calls. And the quality? It was often awful, full of static, battery life was a joke, and security was basically non-existent.
So how did 1G solve that big sharing problem? Well, with a method called frequency division multiple access, or FDMA. The logic was super simple. Just give every single person their own private dedicated frequency. It's kind of like building a massive highway where every single car gets its own private lane. No sharing, no collisions. Simple, right?
And this private lane idea worked okay when, only a handful of rich people had car phones. But you can probably see the problem. It just doesn't scale. You can't build a highway with a billion lanes. There isn't enough space, or in this case, enough radio spectrum. It was just way too inefficient. We needed a new way.
And that brings us to the evolution we're going to walk through. From that simple, kind of wasteful approach of 1G, we got a lot smarter with 2G and 3G. Then we got blazing fast with 4G, and now we're trying to connect literally everything with 5G.
All right, let's jump to the 90s and 2000s. Now, phones are starting to get popular, and way more people want one. So engineers had to get really, really clever about how to share those airwaves. The first big clever idea was time division multiple access, or TDMA. This was the engine behind the 2G revolution. The big insight was, what if instead of everyone having their own lane, people on the same frequency just took turns talking? But they'd take turns really, really fast, each in their own little time slot. So fast you'd never even notice.
Now, this is crucial. This move to taking turns was part of a much bigger shift from analog to digital. And going digital, that opened up a whole new world. For the first time, we got things like encrypted calls for better security, and maybe the most famous invention of 2G, the SMS text message. Yep, that's where it came from.
Then came 3G, and it had an even wilder idea called code division multiple access, CDMA. The question was, what if everyone could talk at the same time on the same frequency, but they all spoke a different secret language? With CDMA, your phone stamps your data with a unique digital code. The cell tower knows your code, so it can pick your voice out of all the noise. It's like being at a loud party, but you can perfectly understand one person because they're speaking a secret language only you two know.
And this method was so much more efficient. I mean, a huge leap in how many people could use the network at once. And that efficiency is what finally made it possible to have usable internet on our phones and even those first clunky attempts at video calls. So let's just recap that really quick. With 2G, we had TDMA, which divided everything by time, like taking turns. That gave us texting. Then with 3G, we had CDMA, which divided everything by code, like secret languages, and that gave us mobile data. Just two different but very smart solutions to the same old sharing problem.
But then, everything changed. Around 2008, the iPhone and the App Store came along and just flipped the script. All of a sudden, our phones weren't for talking anymore. They were for everything. And that created a brand new, massive challenge. You see, the demands of a smartphone were totally different. We wanted to stream HD videos, play intense online games, and browse the web just as fast as our computers at home. The old taking turns and secret codes tricks from 2G and 3G, they just weren't going to cut it. They weren't fast enough or flexible enough for this new data-hungry world.
So the answer was this incredibly sophisticated system. It's a mouthful, but it's called Orthogonal Frequency Division Multiple Access, or OFDMA. This thing is the absolute powerhouse behind 4G and LTE. To put it simply, it kind of takes the best ideas from before and mashes them together. It chops up a big frequency channel into thousands of tiny little subchannels. Then it assigns bundles of them to different users based on what they need moment to moment.
Here's how it works. First, imagine that big highway is divided into thousands of tiny little lanes. Then, you've got this super smart traffic controller that's constantly watching what everyone's doing. Just checking your email? Okay, here are a few lanes for you. But the second you start streaming a 4K movie, bam! The system instantly gives you a whole bunch more. It's all dynamic, and it's ridiculously efficient.
And you really can't overstate the leap in efficiency here. It was a complete game changer, blowing the older methods out of the water. This is the technology that directly enabled the app-heavy world that we all just take for granted today.
And that brings us to today, and to 5G. So 4G basically solved the data problem for our phones. But you know us, our ambitions just got bigger. Now we don't just want to connect billions of people. We want to connect tens of billions of things. Everything from cars to traffic lights to sensors on a farm. And that requires a whole new dimension of sharing.
Yeah, the promises of 5G go way beyond just faster movie downloads. We're talking about being able to connect a massive number of devices in a really small area. We're talking about near-instant response times, what we call low latency, which is crucial for things like self-driving cars. And we're talking about much better battery life for all those little gadgets.
And just look at the raw speed for a second. With 1G, we were crawling along at 2.4 kilobits per second. With 3G, we jumped to a couple of megabits. Now, with 5G, we're talking about a theoretical peak of 10 gigabits per second. I mean, the leap is just astronomical. And it's all made possible by a totally new way of thinking.
And that new way of thinking has a name: Spatial Division Multiple Access, or SDMA. This, to me, is the real magic of 5G. Instead of just juggling frequency, time, and code, 5G can actually divide up physical space. The antennas can create these super-focused beams of signal aimed directly at your phone. It's like switching from a giant floodlight that wastes energy lighting up a whole room to having a personal laser beam that follows you exactly where you go. It cuts way down on interference and lets the network handle so many more connections.
So when you look at the whole journey, it's pretty amazing. 1G learned to share by dividing up frequency. 2G and 3G got smarter by dividing up time and code. 4G became a master at juggling all of them for data. And now 5G is literally dividing up physical space. Each generation found a brand new dimension to share. So it kind of leaves you wondering, what's next? What dimension will 6G learn to divide?